Today we're talking about my favorite 5 pieces of equipment that aren't your essentials. So no power rack, barbells, dumbbell plates, or benches. I'd get those first, but that's not this video. These are my favorite things that I use constantly that I don't need, but I absolutely love. As my home gym has expanded past the necessities, I've found a few great items that have given my workouts more variety and have made my time in here more enjoyable. This gym started in the back bay with a few basic goals and then slowly expanded into the second bay before it got a little out of control and took over the entire garage. But luckily I have a very supportive wife, which you all know since she's the reason most of you watch the channel. And since she's so supportive, I thought maybe it was time I made some content that didn't cost me any money, but you still feel free to use those affiliate links so I can spend your money and keep this train rolling. These are things I incorporate into more workouts than I ever thought I would, and now I find them to be items I can't imagine not having in here, and the last one might surprise you, so let's get this started. Number 5 is my baby swing. I'm joking, of course. This is more valuable than everything on this list because it keeps my baby asleep while I work out. It's priceless. Number 5 is actually my Bells of Steel seal row pad. It's not the most versatile piece, and some of what you can do with it you could do on an adjustable bench, but with the large selection of equipment we've built up over the years, it's something that just keeps creeping back into our workouts. What I like about this is it's simple to set up and light compared to some of the crazy stuff we have in here, and it's priced very well, especially against the competition. But not only that, because of its size, it's easy to move around and store, or you could just leave it on the rack like we do most of the time. It's made for 3" by 3" 5/8 racks, and we got it from our Hydra Rack review, and I was actually going to give it to my buddy who gets all my extra equipment, but he doesn't watch my videos, so f him, it's still here. Actually, I kept it because I realized it would fit in the keyholes on my Rogue Monster rack, and then I decided I liked it so much that I'd put some adapters on it. We use this for a lot of different movements, so it makes its way into quite a few different workouts, and not only on back day, it's a regular for arms and others as well, and is really something I didn't see us using as much as we do. Number 4 is something I haven't given much attention to lately on the channel, but an item I owe a lot of credit to while rehabbing my shoulders, and that's gymnastic rings. Years ago, I had some really dark days in my life where I did some bad things. I tried CrossFit, and after enough workouts and kipping pull-ups, my shoulders were in bad enough shape that I had a lot of trouble with pull-ups and dips and pressing movements, and actually it was bad enough that my doctor told me I had to stop doing movements like that entirely for a while. So that's where my rings came in. Once I was able to press and do most other things, I still had pain with dips and pull-ups, but found that with rings there was no discomfort because I'm able to orient and move my wrists and joints in a more natural movement pattern. Rings to me are the pinnacle of the value to versatility ratio. You can do a ton of movements on them, you don't need to be a gymnast to use them, and they're very inexpensive for what you get out of them. My favorite pair are these 1 1/4 inch ones from Rep because they've got the height markings on them, the cam buckle has never slipped, and the ring itself is smooth and well done. They cost something like $40 shipped, which means they're a very low risk addition to your gym. And what that means is your wife at least won't be mad if you get a pair and don't use them, but believe me, if she uses them, you'll be more than happy you invested the money. We did an entire video on rings, and while it's still accurate, I might have put a few too many innuendos in there, so this is your warning, but rings are something I think every home gym should have. For number 3, I'm going to talk a little more in general rather than forcing my opinion on which of these is most useful. I'll give my personal choice, but I also realize I don't know how you train, your goals, and your space, so your choice will vary, but I want to talk about specialty bars. More often than not, our workouts feature one of these, be it a deadlift bar on back day. Obviously, I'm working a curl bar into more workouts than any normal person would, and that has nothing to do with the fact I almost own as many curl bars as benches, and yes, we're going to completely ignore this because I refuse to talk about squatting. Specialty bars are a great way to add versatility to your workouts or to work around existing injuries. I mentioned my shoulders before, which is how my multi-grip bar addiction began. being able to pick my width and use a more neutral grip really took a lot of pressure off my joints, and those bars were the first form of pressing I went back to when I was able to. And these various niche pieces of equipment are a big part of why I think I've lifted for so long without issue since that injury. As for which is my favorite, I probably use my rep open trap bar the most. Because even though I always say don't get caught up in the hype, it actually is a pretty well done and adaptable bar with the various handle options and the ability to remove them all together. That being said, my Rogue curl bar is probably my favorite, and sometimes I feel like since curl bars aren't the current fad, they don't get enough credit for how much you can really do with them. That is, unless you don't like training arms, at which point you can find yourself a different channel. But like, not really, I can't afford to lose the subs. This is the part where I mentioned we've done a video on this bar and this one and this one, and well, you get the idea. I'm not above promoting an excess amount of my own content, so feel free to watch our reviews on all of this stuff after you're done watching this one. Number 2 on my list is Reps Aries. As much as I use all the other things before this on the list, the Aries might get as much use as all of them combined. Now, it's not perfect, and I'm not arguing it's a better lat pull down in low row than a good dedicated unit, and my old functional trainer that cost enough to make this look budget was better at being a cable machine, but much like my wife accepts me for who I am, which is an accomplishment I'm sure, I love and accept my Aries despite its flaws, and it has a few things those others don't. Namely, it takes up much less space and actually can take up no additional space since it can integrate into your power rack. We built ours as a 4-post to give us another station to work out, and since Winnie and I always work out together and we needed to utilize our space better. And as our gym gets larger and fancier, my freeloading friends seem to show up more often, so our Aries tends to get put through its paces and it's held up very well. Now, it's not a cheap piece of equipment, but it has a high build quality, and unlike most things that attempt to do a lot, I find this functions surprisingly well as a lat pull down, low row, and functional trainer. The cable movement is smooth no matter where you're pulling from, and for a complicated device, it's still quick and simple to set up. And most importantly, with that polished design and heavy stack, you can use it to impress all your friends and neighbors, even if you're not strong enough to actually use all the plates. When I first started planning this video, I spent about 2 hours trying to decide my favorite pieces of gym equipment, but this was the first thing I thought of putting on that list because that's how much I like it. My number 1 non-essential piece of equipment is actually something I would argue has become essential to me, and that's my Bells of Steel reverse hammer. A while back, I started having these moments where I'd be playing on the floor with my son, and then as I got up, I'd have to kind of like hobble down the hallway as I slowly extended my back until I was walking upright. Now, I work out for 2 main reasons. 1, because I'm not letting Winnie outlift me. She would never let me live that down. And 2, to keep up with my sons. That is absolutely the most important thing in life. And now, I may have said this before, but I've always worried about my parents' health, and growing up, we really didn't do much together. So keeping up with my boys and making sure they don't worry about me is the biggest reason I lift. This piece and some adjustments to my training are entirely what I attribute to me having no back pain or discomfort. And if that's not enough for you, as you know, we value glutes around here. And believe me, this is not only a great way to work them, but it will be your favorite machine if your wife works out with you. We work this into our back, leg, and core workouts every single week. And I'll be completely honest with you, I had 100% planned to review and then turn around and sell this thing when Bell sent me it. But now I can't see us getting rid of it, which is a testament to how important it's become to us. Thank you to our Patreons who help us to create content like this without having to worry about affiliates or ad revenue, though I have linked the items from this video and our Patreon in the description. And for those of you keeping track at home, I managed to make it through an entire video without making an innuendo. Go ahead and rewatch it. I dare you, but don't expect it to happen again.